at your workplace and make sure everything's going how it's supposed to go. All right, here's some more of their standards. Have to provide workers with fresh air, test new building for toxins or safety hazards, provide a smoke-free environment, keep air ducts clean and dry, and allow for employee wellness exams and checkups. Okay? All right, here's the main causes for work-related accidents. Number one, human error. Okay? Most of the time, it's like if you're shooting a bow. All right, y'all probably seen somebody. Was archery really big in elementary and middle school when y'all? Yeah, okay. It wasn't as big when I was in school, but I know it's a big deal now. Have you ever been with somebody and they're shooting their bow and arrow and they keep missing the target and they're like, man, this bow, I need a new bow. This bow isn't working right. 99% of the time, it's not the bow, it's who?
The shooter.
The shooter, right? Okay? Human error is the number one cause of work-related accidents. Okay? Carelessness, intoxication, that goes back to substance abuse. Daydreaming, human deficiency, which is maybe you don't have the skills to do the job that you're doing. All right? Poor job skills and training, and environmental conditions. All right? Here's some of the standards that employers use to prevent these accidents. They educate employees, provide specific training, utilize engineering services, protective devices, and respond to issues immediately. All right, let's skip ahead a little bit. We'll talk about emergency planning. The last lesson that we actually have in this class is called risk management, and it's where we'll talk about what you can do to plan for emergencies. And emergencies, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, earthquakes, fires, terrorism. What do we do here at the school that would be considered emergency planning? Drills, all right? Fire drills, tornado drills, all those different drills. That is an example of emergency planning. Environmental hazards, okay? Sanitation practices, all right? This is really big in the food industry. Okay, obtain appropriate permits and licenses, require employees to maintain personal sanitation standards, and check the use of food handler permits when needed. All right. You guys noticed before, whenever you go to the restroom at a restaurant, what is a sign that you normally see up? Think on it for a minute. What's that?
Employees always wash hands.
Yep. Employees must wash hands after use and before they return to the job. Okay, that's in almost every bathroom in a fast food restaurant or a regular restaurant. All right. Workers' compensation. Okay, this is a program dedicated to providing insurance for work-related injuries. Okay, if you get hurt on the job, you may be entitled to workers' comp. Okay. I know I've told you guys before, I use a lot of personal experience, people I know. I don't know him as well, but my father-in-law, his best friend, he just got a huge settlement. He had his hand get cut off working in the coal mines. Okay, hand gets cut off, and he finally, after about, I think it was 6 or 7 years, finally received some compensation from that. Now, it was a big settlement, okay, but that's an example of workers' comp. Okay, it's utilized by thousands of employers and employees each year, and provides replacement income and medical expenses for injured or sick employees. All right? Okay. This is what we're going to do for our assignment when we get done talking about it. Okay, so really pay attention right here. It's talking about workplace policies. Okay? Policies in a workplace, number one, they have to be clear and concise. If it's a policy that there's some gray area, all right, then that is something that maybe you might want to look at and say, hey, let's make this a little more clear and concise where nobody can argue, hey, this is not allowed. All right? Detailed and relevant, practiced by all employees. If you're going to make a workplace policy or procedure, it can't just be for a select few of us. All right? It just can't be for Weston or Dillon. It's got to be for everybody. Okay? Communicated and reviewed frequently. All right, I told you you're gonna have an orientation probably when you get a job. They're gonna explain all of the policies and procedures, okay? But they will often update you on those policies and procedures. They're not just gonna tell it to you one time and then say, all right, they'll have to remember that for the next 10 years that they work here, all right? You'll constantly receive and review those policies and procedures. And they can be communicated through multiple channels, all right? It could come from your manager or supervisor. It could come from their boss. It could come from a coworker, an outside independent agency, whatever it may be. You'll hear it through multiple channels. Here's some of the ethical and legal violations. Sexual harassment, discrimination based on age, race, sex, ethnicity, national origin, religion, pregnancy, etc. Okay, discrimination based on disability. And then they are covered in the Civil Rights Act, and some of those may be covered in the ADA that we've already talked about, and they're enforced by the EEOC. All right, here's some strategies to address violations. Okay, there's some of the sexual harassment policies, okay. This is, over the past couple of years, this has been a huge deal that you see in the news, okay. There's zero tolerance for it. Examples for clarifications, clear definition, complaint procedure, okay. By complaint procedure, what they mean is they'll provide you, if you experience sexual harassment at your workplace, all right, here's what you need to do. You need to go see your supervisor. There may be a form you have to fill out. Confidentiality, if you report it, they're not going to say anything to anybody, okay, unless they need to, all right. They're going to get it to the appropriate party that needs to hear the complaint, but other than that, it's not going to be talked about at the lunch table. It's not going to be talked about in the break room, okay. It's confidential. And then most employers now provide training on sexual harassment, okay. Here's the Fair Labor Standard Act. All right, it was written by Congress in 1938. All right, it created the minimum wage law. It made it to where you can now have overtime. For a long time, it didn't matter if I was paying Will $15 an hour and he worked 100 hours that week, he was going to get $15 an hour. Okay? Now, if you work over 40, what do you get? If you work over 40 hours, what do you get normally in a job? Nope, you get overtime. Okay? So if I hire you at a certain dollar amount, for those 40 hours that week, okay, you're going to make that dollar amount. All right? But if you work anything over 40, then now I'm going to have to pay you time and a half. All right? So if I was paying you $16 an hour and you work over 40 hours that week, let's say you work 60 hours. For 20 of those hours, I'm now going to pay you $24 an hour. All right? And then I know some jobs do holidays or weekends, they may pay you double time, okay, which is you double whatever your hourly wage is for that hour, okay? And then they provided child labor laws. Okay, here's just the confidentiality policy. Here's some of the consequences when you deal with confidentiality, and you'll see it on emails whenever you have a job. Yes?
Do you think that, or do you know if the, on holidays, if they pay you overtime, does it, normalize the overtime, or does the overtime still be counted?
So that's a good question. Most of the time, if your company pays double time on holidays, all right, but let's say for that pay period, it may be 2 weeks, it may be a week. If you have already surpassed your 40 hours and now you're getting paid time and a half, then yes, you work that holiday, which is double time, now you get double the time and a half, okay? So that's why you'll see a lot of people who work a lot of hours when they work in a job where they get paid by the hour, because you can really start adding up some money if you're working a ton, okay? What I was talking about though is, especially in today's workplace, in almost any industry, you're going to deal with a lot of emails, okay? Sometimes you'll get an email and there'll be a warning on it or something at the bottom that says this email, the information provided in this email is confidential. All right, and what that means is you don't need to talk to anybody about it other than the person who sent it to you. Okay, it's confidential information. You don't need to post it on Facebook. You don't need to put it on TikTok or whatever you are doing, social media wise. Okay, you don't need to go home and tell your friends about it. It's confidential information. Okay, and if for some reason you break that confidentiality, here's some of the things that can happen. First, you could be fired. You could be sued. You may get charged criminally, and then you'll have a negative reputation. Okay, confidentiality is very serious. All right. So if anybody ever tells you, "Hey, this is a confidential conversation. This is confidential information," don't talk to anybody about it. Okay, until that person comes to you and says, "Hey, that's no longer confidential," whatever it may be. Okay, I can remember the first job I ever had, probably about 2 months in, I got called in a meeting, shut the door with the CEO of the company, the COO, and about 3 others were in there. There was an incident that happened. They shut the door and said, "Hey, this is a confidential conversation we're about to have. Everything we talk about in here, you cannot talk about it when you leave these doors." Okay? And me being 2 months on the job, I'm kind of like, "Oh no." I didn't really know what to think. I just happened to have to be in there because I was around the situation at the time. But it was kind of like, "Oh, okay, all right, this is pretty serious. I've always kind of heard of this, but never experienced it." Okay? All right. So I'm about to post an assignment called Workplace Policies and Procedures in Google Classroom. Okay? Here's what I want you to do. It's individually, although if you're having some trouble, you can ask the person beside you what's going on. Okay? It's 5 policies is what you're going to have to come up with. Okay? Now you can either, if you have something on top of your head that you think would be a good policy, you can use that, or you can use the internet to find something that you think would be a good policy. But you're going to create your own company, and by that, I just want you to put, I'm creating a